Dandadan is one of the standout anime of the fall 2024 season, but that doesn't mean it hasn't stirred up some controversy. Even though there are only 12 episodes out so far, a few scenes have sparked debates among fans. Whether it's because they're a little too suggestive or outright explicit, these moments have definitely gotten people talking. Opinions are split. Some fans think these scenes make the story feel more realistic, like it's not shying away from uncomfortable truths. Others argue that they don't add much and actually take away from the overall quality of the anime. Regardless of where people stand, one thing's clear: Dandadan isn't afraid to test the limits with its storytelling. Before we continue any further, please press the like button and please subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any daily uploads. Now, let's begin. Let's start with the scene where Okarun and Momo end up in a really awkward situation. In the 9th episode of Dandadan, things get intense, then uncomfortable. Throughout episodes 8 and 9, Okarun is completely naked after the Serpos tried to steal his reproductive organs. Meanwhile, Momo and Era Shiratori are also in their underwear for most of these episodes. After they finally defeat the Serpo Dover Demon Nessie, Okarun and Momo are knocked into each other in the real world. They end up lying on top of each other, laughing in relief about their victory. But things turn awkward fast when they realize their position and that the entire student body is watching them. With Okarun on top of Momo and both of them barely dressed, the scene becomes extremely suggestive. The crowd around them starts teasing, yelling about things like intercourse, and the two quickly jump up and run for cover. Era, who's just as underdressed, joins them, and the three run through the school hallways, still practically naked. For many viewers, this scene was deeply uncomfortable. Seeing two teenagers in such a position while breathing heavily made some feel disgusted and even caused them to stop watching the series altogether. Others defended it, saying the position was accidental and that awkward moments like this are common for teens who like each other. They also thought the humor of their escape made up for the scene's awkwardness. Opinions are all over the place, especially since this controversy is so fresh. Next, there's Momo's horrifying first encounter with the Serpos. This scene comes from the very first episode. While Okarun is busy fighting Turbo Granny, Momo gets captured by the Serpo aliens. Since the Serpos are an all-male race, they target females from other species to help them reproduce. In this scene, they tear off Momo's clothes, strap her to an operating table, and are about to extract her reproductive organs when Okarun, possessed by Turbo Granny, shows up just in time. This moment made a lot of viewers extremely uncomfortable. Seeing a teenage girl stripped and put in such a vulnerable position was bad enough, but the fact that the Serpos were essentially assaulting her made it even worse. Unfortunately, scenes like this aren't rare in anime. While they're not the norm, they're part of a trope that many anime fans hate. Momo's experience in episode 1 stands out because of how upsetting it was, especially since she's a minor. The third moment is when Momo has to go to the bathroom with Okarun. Dandadan is already known for its wild humor, and this scene adds to that reputation in a controversial way. The series has plenty of moments that involve nudity, especially with its teenage characters. Okarun often finds himself at the center of these jokes, mostly because he's the only main male character so far. It's easier for the creators to show him in awkward situations compared to the female characters. But let's be honest, many fans think Okarun shouldn't be put in such compromising positions at all. In episode 3, Okarun is struggling to control his powers. This creates a problem because Momo has to keep an eye on him at all times to make sure Turbo Granny doesn't take over. Things get super uncomfortable when Okarun desperately needs to use the bathroom. He tries to hold it in, but he can't anymore, so Momo has no choice but to follow him to the restroom to keep things under control. It's an awkward and vulnerable moment, with Okarun visibly embarrassed and Momo stuck in a situation she never asked for. Some fans found the humor in it, literal toilet humor after all, but others felt the scene crossed a line. It's not just about the comedy, it's about how the show handles its teenage characters. Dandadan is celebrated for its unique story, gorgeous animation, and emotional depth. But moments like these make some viewers feel like the humor overshadows the better parts of the show. Scenes like this might be an odd detour in an otherwise fantastic series. However, others see it as a cheap laugh that undermines the emotional weight of the story. It's a mix of funny and awkward, but also leaves a bittersweet feeling about how far the show is willing to push its character. At number 4, we've got Okaroon's, let's say, uncomfortable situation. In episode 9 of Dandadan, a moment that had fans scratching their heads and others looking away in secondhand embarrassment. Here's the setup. After getting attacked by Serpo aliens, Okaroon ends up completely naked. Why? Because his clothes get completely disintegrated in the fight. To make things worse, even his gym bag with spare clothes gets destroyed. So, there he is. No clothes, no cover, and an entire episode where he's stuck like that. Yeah, it's awkward. But wait, it gets even stranger. Momo and Era decide to join in on the questionable wardrobe choices. They strip down to their underwear, claiming it's to swim more easily through this eerie green water created by the demon Nessie. At one point, they're even riding on Okaroon's back in this half-dressed state. And let's not sugarcoat it, this scene made a lot of viewers uncomfortable. Why? Because all 3 characters are teenagers. They're minors, yet the episode focuses heavily on their lack of clothing. By the time the episode ends, things escalate even more with a scene that some fans found outright offensive. Sure, there are arguments that moments like this are meant to be funny or fan service, but many viewers didn't see it that way. They couldn't get past the fact that these characters are so young. It's a stark reminder that while some anime try to move past these outdated tropes, others still lean on them for humor or shock value. If these characters were adults, people might have found the whole situation ridiculous and laughed it off. But because they're minors, it just didn't sit right with a lot of fans. For many, episode 9 crossed the line. It's both sad and frustrating to see this kind of thing in a show like Dandadan, especially since the rest of the series is so creative and fun. Instead, we got an episode that left viewers cringing and debating whether fan service like this should even have a place in modern anime. Next up, some viewers were alienated by Turbo Granny's opening statement. From the beginning, Turbo Granny is somewhat of a contentious figure. Her first line, "I will let you suckle my teats, son, provided you let me gobble your dong," is primarily to blame for this. Turbo Granny's proposal is far too obscene for Okaroon, who is only 17 years old. In addition to her remark, Turbo Granny eventually takes Okaroon's penis and, later, his testicles. The fact that there was and still is so much attention paid to a teen's genitalia unnerved fans everywhere. The fact that Turbo Granny is an elderly female ghost makes it even more distressing. There does appear to be a rationale for Granny's behavior, though, which enables some devotees to ignore the discomfort. But she is notorious for keeping watch over young girls who are slaughtered and sexually abused in the tunnel she haunts. Turbo Granny witnesses violence against young girls, regardless of how long she lives in the tunnel. Therefore, it is hypothesized that Turbo Granny removes Okaroon's genitalia in order to stop him from hurting any other ladies. It is also possible to interpret her first remark as an attempt to frighten Okaroon into not trying to use the tunnel for any illicit activities. Although some people still find Turbo Granny's comments and deeds offensive, she generally seems to have good intentions.